Okay, here we go again. This is the second part of the video I uploaded yesterday. This is the rest of the tanks. This is going to be what's in our living room, kitchen, and dining room. And we'll start with the tank, the least amount of technology in it. It's just 5.5 gallon, sits in front of the patio window. No heater, no filter, no artificial lighting, just uses indirect natural light. Wish I could get it to show up a bit better, but it's pretty dreary and overcast out today. Been kind of a crappy weekend. So it's organic potting soil, capped with gravel. Dwarf Sads, Ludwigia repens, and CMS 53B in here. Paramel Endlers, which I like to call the bent boys. They've been like this since birth. Normally I'd call these. My wife wanted me to give them a chance, so I did, and they're doing pretty good. They get around just fine. Poor little fellas, they're just kind of funny looking. But this tank also has a dual role. It's the cat's water dish. Because they don't want to drink the water they have. No, they want to drink this water. Because apparently it just tastes so much better. So that's that one. Here's the next one. It's my wife's Fluval Spec V tank. Replaced the lighting that came with it with an Asta 20 pendant light. Didn't care for the light that came with it, as Asta light does a great job. Almost a little too bright at times, but this was a dirty tank. My wife decided she wanted something different. She finally decided she wanted a black water tank, so that's what I've been working on with this one. Right now it's just wood, almond leaves, substrates, pretty much just black fluorite. There's some stratum underneath it. Much floating plants in here right now. Still haven't decided what I'm going to put in here for plants, or if any. But we'll get to that point eventually. Just taking our time with this tank. Gonna run it at a lower pH. So that's that one. After the 20 gallon. That usually doesn't show up very well. Really hard to get video of it. Usually hard to even take a picture. No filter in this tank. Somewhere in there is a fairly large piece of wood. Not very noticeable anymore. Tank's kind of grown in fairly well. This is where we keep our older sparkling gouramis. Whole bunch of cherry shrimp. So, plants are mostly Hygrophila polysperma. There's some crypts in there. Mayar mini. Tried planting hair grass, but it doesn't get the light it needs to be able to spread very well. So it doesn't die, but doesn't do much of anything. But what this tank does do is Agarya densa has just almost taken over the tank. And it all started from this one stem planted back in here. and it has just grown and grown and grown and wrapped itself around the surface of the tank over and over again. If I had to guess, it's probably in around 10 feet long if we ever could manage to lift the plant out, but I don't think we could. It's quite the sight to see. Pictures and video do not do it justice. It's pretty ridiculous. Just using the fluval aqua sky on this tank. Does pretty good. Go around the corner, and here's another 5.5 gallon. I think I've done a couple of videos on this tank. It's no filter or organic potting soil. This one's capped with fluorite. For lighting, it's just a cheap old desk lamp using a compact fluorescent bulb. Lots and lots of plants, a whole bunch of shrimp, a pair of female sparkling gouramis. They get along fairly good, squabble a little bit, but tank does really well. Just kind of little mini pond sitting on the counter. And also my farm for Rotella atra, which I've grown in many tanks, and it's done alright, sort of. Never as good as it's done in this tank. It's been pretty great. And move on over to the 30 gallon. This is my favorite tank, mostly because this is my favorite fish. Whole bunch of male endlers. Using a power head with a sponge filter. Eventually I plan on having this tank just ridiculously overstocked with male endlers. So a lot of crypts, Ludwigia repens. I think there's 6 Amazon swords in here, some Hygrophilus siamensis, a little bit of Rotella atra. Got one male platy in here. He was a jerk. So it seemed like this is always the best place to put fish that don't get along with other fish, because they never know what to do, surrounded by male endlers. A lot of dwarf sedge. Great little tank. Usually I have to lift the light up quite high when I take video of it. It's got a 36-inch fluval plant light on it. Head on over here to the West African dwarf frog tank. Whole lot of crypts. More dwarf sedge. I got some Hygrophilus polysperma. I think there's some Ludwigia repens in there somewhere too. Some Manubius nana. Floating plants in there. Got a filter in there. The frogs are quite messy. I feed them once a day in the mornings. So right now they're not overly active. They've already ate. Being kind of lazy. This tank is a lot of the reason why we keep autos. Usually we have quite a colony of autos in here, but after the last disaster, we don't have them anymore. Down underneath there is a 10-gallon. Keep a breeding pair of sparkling gouramis, male and female. A whole bunch of mixed Neo-Caridina shrimp. No filter. Whole lot of Dwarf sedge. Kind of hard to find anything in there. It is quite thick. A big mass of Rickia flutens floating around. Bunch more crypts. Wiggy repens. Nana petite. Don't know where the fish are. They're hiding. When they hide, it's kind of hard to find anything in this tank. And beside that, so last tank that's out here. It's where we keep a female pea puffer. Clown placo. Used to be a dirty tank, it's not anymore. It's just gravel, Ludwigia repens, and crypts using root tabs. And that's pretty much it for close as I can come to a fish room tour. Thanks for watching.